Hello, a very warm and heartfelt welcome to our channel. It is an immense joy, a genuine pleasure, and truly inspiring to have you here with us today, ready to embark on a unique, profound, and deeply fascinating journey exploring ancient stories full of mysteries, symbolism, and teachings that have traversed centuries of biblical, mystical, and spiritual tradition. Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer and the story of Cain, a journey of mystery, symbolism, and spiritual insight. Today we are going to delve into an extremely intriguing and thought-provoking topic, one that has sparked curiosity, debate, and fascination for hundreds of years. The controversial and enigmatic idea that Cain may have been the son of Eve and the serpent. At first glance, this narrative can appear strange, confusing, or even impossible to believe. Yet it has roots in very old texts, which demand careful study, deep respect, and thoughtful interpretation to truly understand their meaning. Have you ever come across anything like this before? Perhaps you've read about it, listened to discussions, or even seen it presented in documentaries, lectures, or academic studies. But then wondered, is there genuinely a reliable source that confirms this story? Or is it instead a symbolic interpretation, a misreading, or perhaps even a legendary tale that has been transmitted orally and culturally through countless generations? In this video, we are going to do much more than simply present an unusual story. We will explore the ancient sources in depth, examine the historical, cultural, and spiritual context in which these stories emerged, and uncover the true and deeper meaning behind statements that, on the surface, may seem shocking, incomprehensible, or even impossible to grasp fully. The original source, Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. To fully understand this narrative, it is essential to know the original source of the information. The book called Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, or the Chapters of Eliezer. This ancient and highly significant text is regarded as one of the most important records of the Jewish oral tradition, gathering together stories, mystical interpretations, philosophical reflections, and profound spiritual lessons related to the events described in the Bible. In Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, it is explicitly stated that when Adam and Eve were living in the Garden of Eden, the serpent developed a desire for Eve. That is correct. The narrative explicitly indicates that the serpent experienced a type of impulse, attraction, or longing toward Eve. Naturally, many questions arise. How could a serpent develop desire for a human woman? In what ways could it influence, tempt, or subtly persuade Eve with intelligence or cunning beyond the ordinary? At this point, we understand that we are not dealing with a literal story, but a symbolic and metaphorical narrative, one that requires careful interpretation and understanding of its deeper spiritual message. The birth of Cain and Abel. According to the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, the serpent succeeded in exerting its influence over Eve, and through this symbolic interaction, Cain was born. Later, Adam united with Eve in a natural marital relationship, and from that union, Abel was born, the second son. This leads to a central and fundamental question. Should we interpret this story literally? Did a physical relationship between Eve and the serpent truly occur, resulting in Cain's birth? The answer is no. It is not meant to be interpreted literally. At this point, the four levels of biblical interpretation come into play, particularly emphasized in the Midrashic tradition, which allow us to uncover the deeper spiritual, philosophical, and moral lessons hidden within the text. The four levels of biblical interpretation. Peshat, the literal meaning. The first level, called Peshat, refers to the literal interpretation of the text. Here, we read the words exactly as they appear, paying attention to their straightforward surface-level meaning. However, even at this level, great caution is required. Poor translations, removal from context, or superficial interpretations can easily result in misunderstandings. The literal text alone does not always reveal the essence of the message. Learning biblical Hebrew is an invaluable tool for understanding the original intent and subtle nuances of the words. Remez, the symbolic meaning. The second level, Remez, invites us to look for hidden hints, signs, and subtle clues, revealing moral and spiritual teachings that are not explicitly stated, but are crucial for a deeper understanding. At this level, the hidden details of the text reveal profound insights about human nature, spiritual growth, and the relationship between humanity and God. Drash, philosophical and midrashic interpretation. The third level, Drash, involves midrashic and philosophical interpretation, allowing us to extract deep conceptual, ethical, and spiritual lessons. At this level, the text is interpreted symbolically and reflectively, providing insights into morality, human choices, and the connection between humans and the divine presence. Sod, mystical and secret meaning. The fourth level Sod is the most profound and elevated. It represents the mystical, Kabbalistic interpretation, where secret teachings and deep spiritual insights are revealed. These interpretations are often inaccessible to ordinary readers, yet they are essential for fully understanding complex narratives, such as the symbolic relationship between Eve and the serpent, and the spiritual lessons embedded in the birth of Cain and Abel. The serpent and Cain. Spiritual interpretation. According to the renowned 16th century Kabbalist Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, interpreting this story literally constitutes a serious error. The serpent did not have a physical relationship with Eve. Instead, it symbolizes evil, negative influence, and spiritual corruption that can affect the human soul. The serpent's ultimate goal was to entice Eve into disobedience and introduce evil into the world. Before Eve even ate from the forbidden tree, the serpent had already contaminated her mind and spirit with impure thoughts and negative tendencies. Eve, therefore, became the first to be influenced, and subsequently transmitted this inclination to Adam. In this symbolic context, Cain is called the son of the serpent, but in a spiritual, symbolic sense, not in a biological sense. He represents those who, through the exercise of free will, gravitate toward envy, ambition, and wrongdoing. In contrast, Abel chooses goodness, generosity, and loyalty to God. Cain's behavior and spiritual inclination. Cain's alignment with the serpent is demonstrated through concrete actions and choices. In his offering to God, he presented only what was inferior, without generosity, gratitude, or joy. Abel, by contrast, offered the best of his heart, his resources, and his intentions. In the murder of Abel, Cain succumbed to envy, greed, and the desire to dominate, consciously ignoring divine morality, fully aware that his actions were morally and spiritually wrong. Thus, spiritually, Cain became the son of the serpent, intentionally following a path of corruption, negativity, and moral decay. A universal lesson for humanity. The story of Cain teaches us that from the very beginning of creation, there are distinct paths. The path of light, virtue, and obedience to God, or the path of the serpent, corruption and selfishness. Every individual must make a conscious choice. Even today, the question remains, will we approach the serpent, following the path of temptation, or will we embrace the path of God, of light and moral integrity? I sincerely hope that you have found this detailed explanation of Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer and the spiritual meaning of Cain both enlightening and deeply engaging. Beyond the narrative itself, we have explored its symbolic, philosophical, and mystical dimensions, revealing lessons that resonate through history and into our lives today. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, share it with friends, family, and anyone curious about biblical traditions. And subscribe to the channel so you can continue exploring the mysteries of the Bible, Jewish tradition, and spiritual teachings with us. Your support is vital in allowing us to continue producing fascinating, profound, and enlightening content. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. We look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we will continue uncovering ancient stories, mystical teachings, and spiritual lessons that have the power to transform the way you understand sacred texts and even your own life.